Joseph's story is one of the most captivating tales in the Bible, a saga of betrayal, resilience, and divine providence that spans chapters 37 through 50 of Genesis. It begins in the hills of Canaan and takes readers through the dungeons of Egypt to the courts of Pharaoh himself. The favored son Joseph was the 11th son of Jacob and the firstborn of Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife. This made Joseph the apple of his father's eye. Jacob demonstrated his favoritism by giving Joseph a richly ornamented robe, a dazzling garment of many colors. While Joseph reveled in his father's affection, his 10 older brothers burned with jealousy. To make matters worse, Joseph was a dreamer. One night, he shared a dream with his brothers. "We were binding sheaves of grain in the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." This only deepened their resentment. Later he shared another dream. "The sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." Even Jacob rebuked him for this, though he secretly pondered the meaning of the dream. Betrayed by blood one fateful day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers, who were grazing their flocks near Shechem. As Joseph approached, his brothers saw him in the distance and plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they sneered. "Let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him." Reuben, the eldest, intervened, convincing them to throw Joseph into the cistern alive, intending to rescue him later. But as Reuben stepped away, the brothers spotted a caravan of Ishmaelite traders passing by. Judah, another brother, proposed selling Joseph instead of killing him. They agreed, and for 20 pieces of silver, Joseph was sold into slavery. The brothers then dipped his multicolored robe in goat's blood and presented it to their father. Jacob was inconsolable, believing his beloved son had been torn apart by a wild animal. A slave in Egypt, meanwhile, Joseph was taken to Egypt and sold to Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard. Despite his dire circumstances, Joseph thrived. His intelligence, integrity, and faithfulness earned him Potiphar's trust, and soon Joseph was running his entire household. But trouble loomed. Potiphar's wife was enamored with Joseph's handsome appearance and repeatedly tried to seduce him. Joseph resisted, declaring, "How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" One day she grabbed his cloak, but Joseph fled, leaving it behind. Furious at the rejection, she falsely accused him of trying to assault her. Potiphar believed her and had Joseph thrown into prison. A prisoner with purpose. Even in the dungeon, Joseph's character shone. The prison warden noticed his abilities and put him in charge of the other prisoners. Among them were Pharaoh's chief cupbearer and baker, who had been imprisoned for offending their master. One night, both men had troubling dreams and sought Joseph's help to interpret them. Joseph, giving credit to God, explained their dreams. The cupbearer would be restored to his position, but the baker would be executed. Events unfolded just as Joseph said. Before the cupbearer left prison, Joseph pleaded with him, "Remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh." But the cupbearer forgot Joseph. From prison to palace. 2 years later, Pharaoh himself had two disturbing dreams. In one, 7 fat cows were devoured by 7 gaunt ones. In the other, 7 healthy heads of grain were consumed by 7 scorched ones. None of Pharaoh's magicians could interpret the dreams, but the cupbearer finally remembered Joseph. Joseph was summoned from prison, cleaned up, and brought before Pharaoh. "I cannot do it," Joseph said humbly, "but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Joseph explained the dreams. Egypt would experience 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of severe famine. He advised Pharaoh to appoint a wise man to oversee the storage of surplus grain during the years of plenty. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh declared, "Can we find anyone like this man, in whom is the Spirit of God?" He made Joseph second in command of Egypt, giving him authority over the entire land. The reunion. During the famine, Joseph's brothers traveled to Egypt to buy grain, not knowing their long-lost brother was now the ruler before them. Joseph recognized them immediately but concealed his identity. He tested their character by accusing them of being spies and demanding they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, to prove their honesty. When Benjamin arrived, Joseph hosted a feast but devised one final test. He planted his silver cup in Benjamin's sack and accused him of theft. The brothers were distraught, but Judah stepped forward, offering himself as a substitute to spare Benjamin. This act of selflessness moved Joseph to tears. He revealed his identity, saying, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" Terrified, his brothers feared retribution, but Joseph reassured them, "Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." God's sovereign plan. Joseph invited his entire family to live in Egypt, providing them with the best land in Goshen. He was reunited with his father, Jacob, who wept tears of joy at seeing his son alive. Years later, after Jacob's death, Joseph's brothers feared he might seek revenge. But Joseph reassured them again with words that echo the overarching theme of his life. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Legacy Joseph's story is a powerful testament to God's providence. Despite betrayal, false accusations, and years of suffering, Joseph remained faithful, and God used his trials to position him as a savior for his family in the known world. His life reminds us that God's plans are often beyond our understanding, but always for our ultimate good and his glory.